Welcome to the channel where facts get roasted, history gets slapped with sarcasm, and the news wears clown shoes. We deep dive into real-life weirdness, politics, food, war, beauty, and mythology, all delivered like your brain's favorite comedy fever dream. Subscribe now or risk eternal boredom in Norse Hell's waiting room. In Nevada's Lovelock Cave, miners stumbled across enormous sandals, primitive tools, and piles of animal bones, kicking off tales of red-haired cannibal giants with shack-sized feet. Locals swore these towering freaks once roamed the land before vanishing into legend. But while ghost stories grabbed headlines, the real monster was guano, mountains of bat poop mined for fertilizer. Turns out, inhaling spores from dried droppings could trigger histoplasmosis, a lung infection far scarier than any tall tale. Malignant tumors are nasty overachievers, so relentless that they've been caught doing overtime after death. During autopsies, some researchers noticed that cancer cells can briefly stay metabolically active post-mortem. It's not that they're plotting a comeback, but rather leftover energy in the body lets a few rogue cells divide once or twice before everything shuts down for good. It's more cellular inertia than zombie cancer. Quantum tunneling is the universe's glitchiest cheat code. Imagine chucking a tennis ball at a wall, and instead of bouncing back, it magically pops out the other side like it just rage quit physics. That's tunneling, where particles straight up ignore barriers they technically shouldn't pass. It doesn't break rules, it bends them with probability. The math works even if our brains scream "what" every time. Reality doesn't ghost, it quantum flickers. Red carpet fashion is basically high-stakes dress-up. Most celebs don't own those jaw-dropping gowns. They're borrowed from designers, tailored, pinned, then whisked back post-event before the champagne even warms up. Those glittering diamonds? Rented and insured like crown jewels, often escorted by guards with more anxiety than the actor's publicist. It's million-dollar cosplay wrapped around a borrowed dress and a backstage burrito. In the Philippines, divorce is like unicorns. Talked about, never seen. It's the only country besides the Vatican where it's illegal for most citizens. If you're Muslim, you've got options. Everyone else? Good luck with an annulment, which is basically legal wizardry with a side of therapy. Even if your spouse vanishes with your life savings and your neighbor, you're still married. On paper, in the eyes of the state, and in the most frustrating group chat ever. Some benign brain tumors come with wild side effects, like flipping your personality settings without asking. People have suddenly picked up painting, become obsessed with music, or started hoarding niche trivia like their brain was hacked by an artsy ghost. It's not magic, it's pressure. Tumors press on specific brain regions, rewiring behavior like an uninvited squishy roommate renovating your soul. Suddenly, you're composing sonatas instead of paying bills. In 1920, Léon Thérèmin tried building a burglar alarm, but accidentally invented the world's creepiest instrument. The theremin works by sensing hand movements through electromagnetic fields. No strings, no keys, just spooky air choreography. It wails like a robot ghost singing opera through a haunted snorkel, which is exactly why it became the soundtrack MVP for classic horror flicks. One man's home security project became Hollywood's go-to for "Help, something's possessed me." Excessive crying doesn't just wreck your soul, it puffs up your face like it's prepping for a bloated beauty contest. Tears are salty little jerks, and that salt draws in water like a sponge on drama duty. Combine that with all the blood flow from sobbing, and boom, your under eyes balloon like they've been marinating in sadness and salt water. Post-cry face, 10 out of 10 emotionally raw, 0 out of 10 photogenic. Pet food tasting is 100% a real job. And yes, you literally chew kibble for a paycheck. Entry-level tasters typically make between $30,000 to $40,000 per year, evaluating flavor, texture, and aroma before spitting it out, not gulping it like a pup. That beef biscuit critic persona? Spot on. These pros give feedback like fancy foodies doing a mic drop on chicken chunks. In 2016, fishermen off the Philippine coast spotted a ghostly yacht drifting with its mast broken. Inside, they found German sailor Manfred Fritz Bajoret slumped at the radio, his body naturally mummified by salty sea air and warm breeze. Autopsy later revealed he'd likely suffered a sudden heart attack around a week before discovery, ruling out foul play. A tragic mix of adventure and solitude, his frozen figure felt like a haunting encore to a life lived at sea. Toxoplasmosis is low-key the ultimate biological mind hack. You get infected, often via cat poop, undercooked meat, or contaminated soil. And guess what? You're mostly asymptomatic. Unless you're pregnant or immunocompromised, then it gets serious fast. But here's the twist. This parasite can slip into your brain and tweak your neurotransmitters. In rats, it literally flips their instinctive fear of cats into attraction. In humans, it's linked to reduced fear, impulsivity, risk-taking, and even mood shifts. And maybe some quirky entrepreneurial vibes. In the late 1950s, NASA engineer Wilson Greatbatch was tinkering with a heart rhythm recorder when he grabbed the wrong resistor, plopped in a 1 megohm instead of 10 kilohms, and the device began pulsing like a heartbeat. Staring at it in disbelief, he realized that's exactly what we need to drive a heart. After refining the design and miniaturizing it, he teamed up with surgeon William Chardak to implant his first pacemaker in a dog in 1958 and in a human by 1960. In Cogliano, Italy, shop owners once faced a bizarre tax, a €100 annual fee simply for casting shade onto public sidewalks. If your sign, awning, or umbrella threw a shadow onto municipal land, you owed it. Under a 1993 law, local governments could effectively charge for using sunshine. Business owners raised hell, one even called it legal extortion, and some still refused to pay. In April 1982, Argentina's junta gambled on grabbing the Falklands, thinking Britain wouldn't bat an eye. Instead, Prime Minister Thatcher unleashed a full naval task force. 38 warships, 11,000 troops, and 2 carriers sailed 8,000 miles south in Operation Corporate. Argentina quickly realized its rulers had miscalculated. In just 74 days, Britain had reclaimed the islands, sinking ships and rewriting geopolitics. The Argentine government collapsed, and Thatcher's Iron Lady rep was sealed. Kicking the ball and watching it bounce before sailing out, that's a 50-22 kick in rugby union and 40-20 in rugby league. And it's a genius loophole. If you're in your own half and your kick bounces in the opponent's 22-meter zone before going out, you get the next line out. Possession handed right back. Kick it out on the full, though, and the opposition scores the throw. It's like football rewritten by lawyers who chug espresso and giggle at chaos. In 2003, the U.S. invaded Iraq, claiming a mission to liberate the people. But that freedom cost over 200,000 Iraqi civilian lives. The country got democracy, but also endless bombings, power outages, and a new regime that treated basic stability like a unicorn. Everyone wanted it. No one could find it. Bollywood made the fair skin obsession of Indians worse. Fair-skinned leads dominated the screen while darker actors got stuck playing servants or villains. Add the booming fairness cream industry shouting "white is right" in every ad, and boom. India started bleaching its way through insecurity dressed up as beauty goals. Surgeon Simulator VR is a game that turns you into the world's most horrifying doctor. You operate with spaghetti arms, flinging organs around like meat confetti, while your patient slowly turns into a biology experiment from a horror cartoon. Don't worry, he's already unconscious from the trauma of your diploma falling on his face. Nicolae Ceausescu of Romania threw massive parades and speeches to look like a benevolent dad, but his government was crushing everyone's spirit with secret police and famine. His nice leader image crashed spectacularly when he was arrested and executed in 1989, proving fake smiles don't age well. There's also an honesty scale invented as a joke that asks how many cookies you ate before displaying your weight. If you lie, it shames you by printing out your answer on a public receipt, like a confessional booth for snack crimes. One MasterChef contestant once served squid ink ice cream with candied anchovies. It looked like a goth melted in a dessert bowl and tasted like Poseidon's regret. The judges tried to smile through the fishy sadness, but it was clear their souls were reconsidering why they signed up for this job. Among some Native American tribes, the birth of a girl was celebrated with a ritual where the family painted the baby's face with natural dyes, symbolizing beauty and connection to the earth. The baby would wear these earthy face paints until the dyes faded, turning her into a tiny walking art project. Too much salty food turns your face into a sodium storage unit. The body retains water to balance the salt, and your under eyes become unwilling reservoirs. Congratulations! Your love for ramen now lives under your eyelids like edible luggage. Kindertransport rescued over 10,000 Jewish children by sending them from Nazi-occupied Europe to the UK. Parents often stayed behind. Kids said goodbye forever at train stations, sometimes with notes pinned to their coats like emotionally devastating luggage tags. Safety came with the cost of never seeing home again. The Cambodian Khmer Rouge justified their 1975 genocide by claiming intellectuals were enemies of the revolution. Wearing glasses or speaking French could get you executed. Yes, eyewear was dangerous. Pol Pot turned killing people into an anti-education movement with a body count higher than any book burning ever. In Judaism, murdering an innocent child is seen as one of the gravest possible sins, so severe that it's considered a direct rebellion against God's will. The Torah treats human life as sacred, and killing a child is not just a crime against a person, but against divine creation itself. It's like destroying a scroll God hasn't finished writing yet. Israel's perpetual victim narrative has sparked global eye rolls because it's been both launching military strikes and claiming self-defense in the same breath. It's like flipping the table and then crying about the mess. Decades of occupation, airstrikes, and blockades magically vanish every time the word security is whispered. The peacock brooch by Graf costs a casual $100 million and looks like a glitter-covered bird lost in a gemstone factory. It's made of 1,300 diamonds and has zero purpose besides flexing on every living creature. No one wears it, probably because they'd be tackled by 40 security guards if they tried. In Jainism, hell is an underground, multi-level torture complex where souls are stuck for literal eons because they killed a bug or thought an angry thought. You don't get fire, you get a cosmic timeout and a pain simulator. Hell is basically a brutal karmic receipt printer that never runs out of ink. If you've ever swatted a mosquito or yelled at your Wi-Fi, congrats! You might already have reservations in Jainism's karmic pain dungeon. Hit like, subscribe, and repent before your next reincarnation review. In a bizarre TED Talk, The Mathematics of Love, a speaker tried to convince people that algebra could help you flirt. Yep, equations were used to explain attraction, dating, and when to settle. Apparently, romance is just a stats problem. Nothing says sexy like graphing the probability of your soulmate ghosting you after date 3. In ancient Rome, Emperor Caligula tried to make it legal to appoint his horse as a consul. The horse never made it to the office, but the law drafts were real. Apparently, when you're the emperor and bored, turning your horse into a senator is the ultimate flex of legalized lunacy. Ants don't sleep like normal creatures. They take micro naps every few minutes and call that rest. Queens, of course, sleep more, because even in the insect world, the boss gets luxury while the workers run on crumbs and exhaustion. Imagine your power nap being 6 seconds long. Welcome to the ant hustle. A lot of cacao farmers are paid so little they can't afford to buy the chocolate their beans make. Think about it. Your entire career is farming joy beans, but when it comes to dessert, you're stuck chewing sugarcane and wondering what a truffle feels like in the mouth. Jet engines suck in air at such horrifying speeds that standing near one during takeoff is like volunteering to get inhaled by a metal tornado. The force is strong enough to launch a human ragdoll style across a runway. Basically, it's a giant mechanical vacuum with trust issues and zero chill. Water hyacinth clogs waterways like a botanical hairball. Pretty on the surface, but it sucks oxygen from water, kills fish, and makes boats cry. Introduced for its flowers, it now forms floating carpets of aquatic destruction that look peaceful until your local ecosystem collapses underneath them. In 1324, Ireland, a wealthy woman named Alice Keitler was accused of witchcraft because she had money, 4 dead husbands, and a pet cat. They said she made potions from intestines and used demon hair oil. Turns out people just didn't like rich widows with sass and pets that meowed. In 1973, NASA launched Skylab with one unspoken mission: prove that men could poop in zero gravity without turning the station into a floating brown disaster. Scientists cared more about space turds floating through air vents than aliens. It was less final frontier and more to boldly go where no one has gone before. In 1998, the US sent semen samples to the International Space Station to check if sperm could swim in zero gravity. Apparently, exploring Mars can wait, but testing cosmic fertility was urgent. The experiment proved that humans will risk millions to answer, "Can you make babies in orbit?" Yes. Science. In 2014, scientists played romantic comedies to measure brain responses and found women cried, while men's brains activated the pain center, like they were being mildly tortured. Turns out watching Hugh Grant confess love is the emotional equivalent of stepping on Legos if you have a Y chromosome. Pakistani jingle trucks are a heritage of their own. Drivers see them as rolling art museums with engines, investing more in decoration than the actual engine sometimes. You'll see flamingos, Bollywood stars, and peacocks painted next to verses about heartbreak. They're not just transport. They're therapy sessions on wheels with vibes and loud metaphors. And if you're wondering how much this extravagant decoration on 4 wheels costs, some truckers spend more on adorning their vehicle than on a wedding budget. It's Fashion Week on highways with the occasional honk that sounds like a goat sneezing through a flute. Magnus Carlsen once stalemated a game by accidentally trapping his own king, with his opponent too paralyzed to capitalize. It was like watching a genius build a mental labyrinth, then trip over his own shoelaces. Even the chessboard looked confused, wondering how it went from strategy to sitcom in one move. China built the Three Gorges Dam, the world's largest hydroelectric project, and also the biggest concrete argument against subtlety. It's so massive it literally slowed Earth's rotation by microseconds. While meant to control flooding, generate power, and boost national pride, it also displaced over 1 million people because efficiency in China often comes with a bulldozer. Goose barnacles look like alien fingernails dipped in lotion and grown on driftwood. They're so smooth and shiny that they've tricked people into thinking they're valuable seafood or weirdly fancy shells. Spoiler, they're neither. They're just ocean hitchhikers with a skincare routine better than most humans. In a bizarre turn of misfortune, Kane Williamson lost the 2015 World Cup final to Australia in a match that felt like Australia was playing New Zealand with cheat codes on. It was so one-sided, New Zealand fans considered deleting the match from collective memory. Williamson, the king of almosts, forever stuck in cricket's emotional friend zone. In ancient Rome, brides had to bathe in water mixed with herbs and spermaceti, an oily wax from whale heads. You basically got marinated in blubber goo to glow like a shiny, fish-scented goddess. Smelling like a sea mammal wasn't just acceptable, it was romantic prep. The Great Pyramid of Giza originally had 203 steps, each the size of a toddler's ego, stacked so precisely that aliens got credit for it. These levels weren't for climbing, though. Unless you enjoy ancient stairmasters that also double as bird bathrooms and existential metaphors for midlife crises. The Pyramid of Djoser has 6 tiers like a stone wedding cake for the afterlife. Each level represents how extra Egyptians were about the dead. Because why just bury a guy when you can stack him under 6 layers of "I'm richer than your god"? Owls don't blink. They just stare, unblinking, judgmental, and completely still, like they're silently critiquing your life choices. Their eyes are fixed forward like nature's security cameras, recording your embarrassment at 4 a.m. while you try to sneak snacks. Basically, they're feathery therapists who charge an existential dread, not dollars. The movie Heaven's Gate turned into a cinematic black hole that swallowed 44 million and spat out broken dreams. The director spent weeks filming people roller skating and shaving mustaches. It bombed so hard it shut down United Artists. Imagine going bankrupt because someone filmed 600 takes of a guy opening a door. The Pyramid of the Sun in Teotihuacan has 5 giant levels, each designed for climbing straight into heatstroke. Ancient tourists apparently loved hiking 200 feet straight up, just to say, "Wow, what a view," before keeling over. It's a cardio sacrifice to the gods with stairs and a side of regret. In Victorian England, rich brides sometimes bathed in milk, goats or donkeys, to soften skin and show off wealth. Basically, you soak in a tub full of lactose while servants stand around like dairy lifeguards. The cow didn't get invited, but her hard work made your elbows smooth. Al-Zarawi, known as the father of modern surgery, invented over 200 surgical tools, described how to perform C-sections, and even explained how to remove bladder stones. But he called it all helpful notes for doctors. Imagine dropping surgical bombshells and calling it a sticky note from the Middle Ages. Chefs promoting zero waste let nothing go to waste. One highly recommended way to use roast chicken leftovers is to morph them into chicken salad or soup, depending on how chaotic your day is. Shred it, mix it with mayo, or toss it into broth, and suddenly yesterday's carcass is today's comfort food. It's efficient, tasty, and kind of creepy how delicious it gets post-mortem. The observer effect means that watching something can change what it does, especially in quantum mechanics. Electrons behave differently when you stare at them. Basically, the universe acts shy when it knows it's being watched, like a cosmic diva that performs best when nobody's looking. Celebrities post pics sipping champagne in private jets, but those jets are often rented by the hour, like glorified Uber rides with wings. Half of them can't afford the plane, the pilot, or the fuel, but they'll pose like Bond villains anyway, just crop out the invoice. In World War I trenches, British soldiers smeared whale oil on their feet daily to prevent trench foot, which was basically their toes melting off from wet socks. No boots? Build a sandbag wall and hug it? Cold food? Heat it with a candle. Romance? Whisper to rats so you don't lose your mind. Whoopi Goldberg has openly worn hearing aids for years, but once admitted she used to ignore her audiologist's instructions. She'd crank the volume to eavesdrop mode, accidentally turning casual conversations into a surround sound nightmare. Nothing like hearing a stranger's sandwich order at max volume while pretending you're just chillin'. In 1958, Alaska's Lituya Bay was hit by a mega tsunami over 1,700 feet tall. Basically the ocean standing up to stretch. But it mostly destroyed trees and scared some fishing boats. It was like Poseidon flexed really hard, missed, and just gave the landscape a weird haircut. If you think your bad hair day is rough, imagine Mother Nature giving Alaska a 1,700-foot tsunami trim. Smash that like button, subscribe, and avoid oceans that stand up uninvited. In 1914, during World War I, both sides paused the slaughter for the Christmas truce. Soldiers who were literally trying to kill each other the day before played soccer, sang carols, and exchanged cigarettes in no man's land. It was the most wholesome ceasefire ever ruined by generals, with zero chill. The cosmetic giants invented the toe shame movement. Yes, apparently your pinky toe is too stubby, and your nail beds aren't elegant enough. Enter toe-lengthening surgeries, laser treatments, and designer polish to rescue your feet from their biological crimes. Because clearly sandals should only be worn by foot models with CGI toes. In 2016, India's government demonetized 86% of its currency overnight, hoping to curb black money. What happened instead? Millions queued at ATMs, cash-dependent small businesses collapsed, and the GDP took a nosedive. Turns out nuking your own economy with no warning is like trying to fix a headache with a sledgehammer. In many indigenous tribes of North America, murder wasn't seen as just a personal crime. It was a spiritual imbalance. The whole clan might be punished by fate or nature until it was made right. Murder didn't just mess with people, it pissed off the universe. You killed someone and now the crops hate you too. Janine Jones, a pediatric nurse, was nicknamed the Angel of Death. She worked in a children's hospital, looked like your favorite aunt, and secretly injected babies with lethal drugs to save them later. Spoiler, she rarely saved anyone. She made Munchausen look like a bedtime story. John Wayne Gacy was a successful contractor, community volunteer, and birthday party clown. Underneath the grease paint, he murdered at least 33 boys and hid them in his crawl space. Imagine hiring a clown for your kid's party and accidentally inviting a nightmare in red shoes and oversized buttons. Chronic people-pleasing trains your brain to fear conflict, like it's a fire-breathing dragon. The amygdala, aka the brain's panic button, goes off at the tiniest sign of disapproval, like someone raising an eyebrow. Your nervous system basically becomes a butler, constantly saying yes of course while dying inside. In some Chinese cities, pollution is so thick that it confuses facial recognition systems. Imagine smog so dense even AI gives up and says, nope, that's just a blur with legs. When robots can't tell if you're a person or a pixelated ghost, air quality has officially become a horror filter. In 1997, Thailand floated its currency, thinking it could handle speculative pressure. Instead, it triggered the Asian financial crisis, with economies across Southeast Asia crumbling like dominoes. One decision turned a tropical paradise into Wall Street's favorite cautionary tale about biting off more butt than you can chew. In Thailand, fireworks are launched during funerals. Why? To scare off bad spirits and entertain the dead. Because nothing says rest in peace like a fire-spewing sky explosion. It's basically throwing a party for a corpse while everyone pretends that ghosts enjoy pyrotechnics. In Sicily, fireworks are sometimes blasted at random during Saints' Day processions. And by I mean toward the saint statue being carried by terrified locals. Or it's like religious dodgeball with explosives. Nothing deepens your faith like dodging a flaming comet in honor of Saint Flaming Eyebrows. Camels technically gallop, but it's less majestic stallion and more drunken sofa on legs. Their gallop involves both legs on one side moving together, so they sway like they're trying to win a desert dance-off. It's effective, but it looks like the animal kingdom's version of walking home at 3 a.m. In 18th century France, women's poof hairstyles featured model ships, gardens, and even battle reenactments balanced on their heads. It was like cosplay for the aristocracy, except instead of Comic-Con, it was tea with the queen. And instead of wigs, they were just slowly crushing their cervical spine under maritime decor. The Yaibahar is a giant sci-fi spaghetti strainer that makes sounds like a haunted spaceship having a panic attack. It's a stringed instrument with springs and drums that resonates like the ghosts of dying robots. Musicians use it to summon alien vibes or just to confuse Spotify's algorithm. The Zeusophone turns Tesla coils into electric violins of doom. It shoots out music as literal lightning bolts because why not mix heavy metal with actual electricity? One wrong note and you're fried bacon in a rock concert. It's less an instrument, more an electrified lawsuit waiting to perform. The 201 Carat watch by Chopard costs a soul-punching $25 million. It's a rainbow mess of 874 diamonds, including 3 heart-shaped ones the size of your insecurities. You can't even read the time properly. It's just bedazzled nonsense that screams, I have too much money and not enough taste. The anglerfish hunts by dangling a glowing flesh lure from its forehead like a creepy underwater street lamp. Prey swim toward it thinking it's snack time, only to be inhaled by what looks like a toothy beanbag chair with daddy issues. It's basically the Tinder date of the deep, bright light, immediate regret. Canada and Denmark had a 50-year whiskey war over a tiny rock called Hans Island. Every few years, one side would plant its flag and leave a bottle of booze. The other side would show up, swap the flag, and leave their own liquor. It was the most polite turf war ever. India and Pakistan once argued over mangoes. Seriously. There was an entire diplomatic snub involving a rejected shipment of mangoes sent as a peace gesture. Centuries of tension boiled down to fruit. It's like sending a peace offering and getting ghosted by an entire nation. The Badgerman is a combination of a theremin and a badger puppet. Yes, you heard right. Musicians now wave their hands near a creepy fake badger to create eerie, wailing sounds. It's the official instrument of nightmares, horror films, and anyone whose band couldn't afford therapy. Victorian women made brooches and combs out of dead relatives' hair, turning mourning into a DIY nightmare. Because obviously, nothing says eternal love like wearing Uncle Harold's dandruff particles on your head while smiling for a portrait that looks like a funeral dressed up as a fashion shoot. Austria-Hungary kicked off World War I by serving Serbia a spicy ultimatum with extra arrogance. Then, when the global explosion began, they played the woe is us card like they hadn't just slapped the Balkan beehive with a stick. Spoiler, poking angry Slavs rarely ends in tea parties and hugs. At its core, narcissism is a defense mechanism. The brain builds a personality that screams, "I'm the best." To avoid admitting it, sometimes cries during toothpaste commercials. It's emotional armor made from compliments, likes, and delusions of grandeur, carefully polished to hide the dumpster fire of low self-worth underneath. Narcissists often mirror people's emotions not to connect, but to manipulate. They don't feel your pain, they just mimic it like a psychological parrot with a god complex. Empathy is off-brand for them, unless it helps maintain their role as the star of your emotional soap opera. In Indonesia, after the LGBTQ plus movement gained some traction, one city's mayor claimed that instant noodles were secretly making boys more feminine. So instead of addressing societal inequality, they went after cup noodles like it was seasoning packets, causing gender expression. Ramen became the unexpected villain of masculinity. Chinese hairpins called jai were often sharp enough to stab someone mid-poetry recital, because nothing spices up a romantic rejection like impaling the admirer with your updo. Ancient love advice: never woo a woman whose hairstyle is pointier than your sword. It's not a date, it's a duel with bonus ornaments. Ketchup is technically a smoothie if you follow the logic that tomatoes are fruit and smoothies are blended fruit. This makes ketchup a breakfast abomination, masquerading as a sauce. It's the culinary equivalent of lying on your resume. Looks innocent, but it's hiding the truth in a thick red sugar coat. The gulper eel can unhinge its jaw and turn its face into a parachute of horror. It chases nothing, just opens wide and waits for unlucky fish to wander in like tourists at a free buffet. Its hunting strategy is do nothing and look terrifying, which honestly works great in retail too. The fangtooth fish has eyesight so bad that it basically stabs first and asks questions never. It hunts by charging at shadows, biting anything that twitches, including water currents and possibly its own shadow. It's not a predator, it's a deep-sea panic attack with fangs and zero social skills. Cleaning a vacuum cleaner makes you dirty. You are the contaminant being removed by yourself, which means your existence is now one long metaphor for feudal labor. In this moment, you're Schrodinger's dust, simultaneously clean and unclean, trapped in a domestic paradox with no escape but emotional damage. If you've ever battled your own filth inside a vacuum and lost, congratulations. You're now a philosophical janitor. Hit like, subscribe, and embrace the dust-fueled existential crisis with us every week. Kanye West's 2016 mental health crisis landed him in a hospital, where his condition was downplayed as exhaustion, because apparently if you're rich and ranting, you're not having a breakdown. You just need a nap and an iced latte. Urgent care turned into urgent PR damage control. Michael Jackson's insomnia was treated with propofol, an anesthetic reserved for knocking people out in surgeries. His private doctor decided sleepy time tea was for peasants and turned his bedroom into an operating room. Urgent care? Nah, just industrial-strength sedation and a moonwalk to the afterlife. Some farmers have used earthworms not just to aerate soil, but to literally plow fields by overfeeding them and letting the squirmy chaos commence. It's less farming and more unleashing a slimy earth noodle army to wiggle your crops into place like they're remodeling dirt with digestive tracts. In parts of India, vermiculture enthusiasts have used trenches packed with worms to soft plow land. Worms digest manure and loosen soil, but with enough numbers, it turns into worm-powered tilling. It's like a biological bulldozer that poops fertilizer and demands zero wages, unless you count rotting vegetables as salary. Black gram or urad dal needs scorching heat to grow, but freaks out if the soil isn't perfectly moist. Too dry? It dies. Too wet? Also dies. It's like farming a lentil version of Goldilocks that can't emotionally handle inconsistency. Growers basically need a PhD in soil mood swings. A fallacy claims that anger is always bad, but sometimes anger is just your brain's way of yelling, "Hey, that's not okay." It's not a moral failure, it's emotional customer service. People act like being mad makes you a villain, when really it's just your feelings wearing steel-toed boots. Cleaner fish and giant sea creatures form spa day coalitions, where the little fish nibble parasites off sharks, rays, and even moray eels. It's the marine version of a toxic relationship. The big fish could kill them at any time, but enjoys the free skincare too much to bother. Abraham Lincoln once received mail from a woman offering to marry him purely because he looked honest. She hadn't met him, didn't know his politics, just saw his face and assumed he wouldn't cheat. Imagine being proposed to because your jawline screams loyal tax filer. Russia invaded Ukraine in 2022, then claimed it was self-defense against NATO's vibes and Ukraine's right to exist. After tanks rolled in, Russia acted shocked. Pikachu when sanctions hit. Apparently, international law only matters when it's blocking other people's missiles, not your own liberating death machines. In ancient Egypt, murder was seen as tearing apart the cosmic order of Mayat, basically slapping the universe in the face. You weren't just a criminal, you were an existential embarrassment, punishment, execution, and then possibly being denied entry to the afterlife. Eternal ghosting, literally. Brazil has a booming industry and rich resources, but political scandals pop up more often than software updates. Every few years, someone gets impeached, arrested, or just mysteriously retires. Progress stalls while billion-dollar corruption parties rage backstage. Infrastructure dreams usually die, stuck in traffic on unfinished roads. Nigeria's economic surge gets body slammed by power outages and oil crises. Tech startups blossom next to neighborhoods that haven't seen electricity in 3 days. The country's bursting with talent, but progress keeps tripping over potholes of poor governance and the occasional government that forgets to govern. The cosmetic industry declared cellulite a public enemy, even though 90% of women have it, and it's just fat doing its squishy, normal fat thing. They marketed it like a flesh-based apocalypse, selling creams, rollers, and electric zapper gadgets to fix what is literally just your body being alive and storing energy. A Ugandan politician once argued that LGBTQ plus people were to blame for crop failure, claiming their existence angered the gods. So, according to this logic, tomatoes were being boycotted in the fields out of divine protest against two men holding hands. Agriculture suddenly became a deeply homophobic drama. Japanese geishas used kanzashi, hair sticks that doubled as self-defense weapons. You could literally be flirting while armed with scalp-based shivs. Because who needs pepper spray when your hairstyle is a booby trap? It's elegance meets stabby surprise in case a drunk samurai gets handsy during dinner. Victorian hat pins were basically socially acceptable shivs. Women stabbed creeps on public transport with these foot-long metal skewers disguised as fashion. Imagine complimenting a lady's hat and getting jousted through the eyeball. Safety tip: if her accessory could double as a kebab skewer, maybe don't get too flirty. In Japan, divorce can be as easy as signing a paper, literally called a divorce paper. No court, no drama. But if one partner refuses to sign, good luck. You might be married out of sheer spite. It's legally binding emotional blackmail on a single sheet of paper. In South Africa, some towns light fireworks on New Year's for chickens. Yes, they believe the noise scares off evil spirits that target poultry. The birds get PTSD, but hey, evil ghost roosters are apparently the real threat. It's loud, smoky, and deeply confusing for anything with feathers or ears. The dick box, which looks like an innocent wine cabinet, is reportedly haunted by a malicious spirit from Jewish folklore. Owners reported nightmares, illnesses, and furniture rearranged by a ghost with interior design opinions. Even Post Malone got cursed by touching it, proving that not even fame saves you from haunted IKEA rejects. John and Kate Plus 8 began as a show about adorable twins and sextuplets, then mutated into a televised custody battle where viewers could place bets. The kids grew up with camera lenses instead of friends, and the parents grew reality TV egos larger than their own lawn chairs. Giraffes gallop too, and it's as ridiculous as you imagine. Their front and back legs move in pairs like a four-legged pogo stick with ADHD. The neck wobbles like it's trying to leave the body, and yet somehow they reach 35 meters per hour. They look like they're fleeing a bad fashion review. Brugada syndrome is a heart condition that shows up looking normal until it's not, like a silent assassin in your chest. It can strike while you sleep, giving it the adorable nickname sudden death syndrome. Doctors sometimes detect it with an EKG, but only if your heart feels like cooperating that day. Heterotaxy syndrome causes your heart, and sometimes other organs, to be arranged like a toddler played Tetris with your anatomy. Your heart chambers might be swapped, flipped, or doubled. Imagine opening a car hood and finding the engine in the glove compartment. That's heterotaxy, and your heart's just vibing in the wrong layout. Hunger and cold zones tricks your body into hibernation mode, where it slows metabolism but also forgets you're human. You might stop shivering, feel warm, false hope, and calmly wander off into a snowbank like you're headed to brunch. This charming death march is called paradoxical undressing, nature's final prank. Cat scratch disease can cause swollen lymph nodes the size of golf balls, fever, and random hallucinations. Yes, a cute little scratch from Fluffy might leave you sweating, tripping, and wondering if the walls are breathing. It's like your body says, that was no ordinary purr machine. Gargling like a possessed opera singer stimulates the vagus nerve and calms your nervous system. It's weird, but apparently yelling at your uvula is soothing now. Doctors say it works, but try explaining to your family why you're gargling salt water like you're rehearsing for The Exorcist, the Spa Edition. Interjections are basically dramatic toddlers of language. Words like ouch, ugh, and wow don't follow grammar. They just scream feelings into the void. They don't connect, describe, or explain. They're just loud punctuation dressed as words. Honestly, may is a whole part of speech now. That's the English language giving up. The French resistance during Nazi occupation fought with sabotage, espionage, and raw defiance. At the time, Nazis labeled them terrorists for daring to blow up trains and whisper freedom. Now, they're national heroes with statues and tear-jerking documentaries. Apparently, terrorism looks a lot like patriotism after the war ends. Nelson Mandela was once on a terrorist watch list for opposing apartheid because organizing against legalized racism was apparently too rebellious. He served 27 years in prison and still got called a threat. Then he became South Africa's president and a global peace icon. Funny how terror becomes Nobel Prize material with a little time. The Palestinian resistance has long been labeled a terrorist while opposing military occupation. Some factions use arms, others protest with flags and rocks. But the narrative depends on who's writing it. Because when one side has drones and the other has slingshots, terrorist becomes a term of convenience, not clarity. If you've ever seen a slingshot called a UMD, welcome to geopolitics where logic gets ghosted. Hit like, subscribe, and join us as we unpack hypocrisy one absurdity at a time. Cleopatra, released in 1963, was such a financial black hole that it nearly bankrupted 20th Century Fox. Originally budgeted at $2 million, it ballooned past $40 million because Elizabeth Taylor needed 65 costume changes, and Rome's sets had to be built twice. The movie became a golden chariot, dragging a studio into fiscal despair. One billionaire bought a $2 million iPhone case made of 18-karat gold, embedded with 600 diamonds, because clearly a normal case doesn't scream, "My phone is worth more than your house." It's basically a phone protector that could fund a hospital, but instead protects against pocket lint and poor people. A tech mogul once spent $100,000 to clone his dog, because emotionally moving on is for peasants. He now owns a genetically identical canine that probably judges him with the same eyes and existential confusion. It's rich guy reincarnation, only with more drool and less spiritual closure. National Nothing Day is celebrated in the United States on January 16th. It's literally a day to celebrate doing absolutely nothing. No events, no decorations, no purpose. It's the holiday equivalent of shrugging in sweatpants. Somehow people manage to schedule nothing and still get stressed trying to do it correctly. World Toe Wrestling Championship Day in England is exactly what it sounds like. Grown adults lock their big toes in sweaty combat for toe dominance. It's a foot fetishist's Olympics mixed with awkward grunts and fungal trauma. The winner gets a trophy and lifelong bragging rights over very confused relatives. In Bolivia's Tinku Festival, people gather to literally fistfight for good harvests. Entire villages throw their hands in the name of agriculture. Blood spilled on the ground is considered an offering to Pachamama, Mother Earth, because nothing says, "Please grow my potatoes," like a community-wide uppercut parade. In Venezuela, people roller skate to Christmas Mass. Streets are closed, so families can zoom to church on wheels, as if Jesus were born for extreme sports. It's festive, holy, and slightly chaotic. If you've ever seen a nun take a corner at 20 miles per hour, you've witnessed true seasonal spirit. In Ecuador's La Fiesta de los Diablitos, people dress as devils and get symbolically beaten with sticks to chase away evil. It's half exorcism, half community theater. Locals beat the devils until they promise to leave. Imagine getting smacked out of town in costume while everyone cheers for your spiritual eviction. Competitive mooing is a legit game in parts of the US where contestants gather in gyms or living rooms and moo like cows, loudly, emotionally, and with disturbing accuracy. Judges rank for volume and realism. Somewhere, a human is crying in bovine and winning trophies for it. The Maltron keyboard looks like someone melted a typewriter in a microwave. It's split into two domes that cradle your hands like a futuristic fruit bowl. Designed to reduce strain, it instead makes you feel like you're piloting a spaceship every time you try to type the word email. The data hand keyboard replaces keys with little finger wells. Each finger gets its own private dungeon. To type, you flick your fingers up, down, left, or right, like Morse code gone rogue. It's ergonomic wizardry for your joints, and absolute witchcraft for your brain. The Optimus Maximus keyboard features a tiny screen on every single key. You can program each key to display whatever you want: emoji, shortcuts, or a tiny slideshow of disappointment. It costs over $1,000, making it the kind of keyboard you'd weep over if you spilled a drink on it. Zombo.com promises you can do anything, eventually. It's a single page with a voice that repeats motivational nonsense while absolutely nothing happens. It's the internet's finest shrine to doing nothing with confidence. Perfect for learning how to waste time while feeling oddly inspired. McDonald's McRib contains no actual ribs. It's a boneless pork patty molded to look like ribs, slathered in sauce so aggressively that it could hide a crime scene. Add in restructured meat trimmings and a yoga mat chemical, yes, azotocarbonamide, and you've got gourmet confusion on a sesame bun. Horsesarecool.com. Yes, it exists. Teaches you facts about horses, except every fact is completely made up. One minute you're learning that horses invented jazz, the next you're reading about equine time travel. It's educational nonsense, and somehow your brain will thank you for nothing. Stale bread becomes French toast because eggs, milk, and a hot pan are basically breakfast therapy. It's like you took that crusty brick of sadness and said, "You matter." Add syrup and cinnamon, and you've got gourmet redemption made from literal bread scraps and emotional instability. Al-Khwarizmi introduced algebra to the world. The word algorithm literally comes from his name, yet he described his groundbreaking book as a brief treatise. That's like inventing the operating system for the entire planet and calling it a little tech zine you stapled together. Play literally grows gray matter, which means imaginary sword fights are pumping up the brain like a gym for neurons. Pretending to be a flying unicorn somehow leads to better math skills. So while adults fear taxes, kids who pretend to be tax-evading pirates are prepping for adulthood, accidentally. King Pyrrhus of Epirus, the OG of Pyrrhic victories, died not on the battlefield, but from a roof tile chucked by an old lady during a street brawl. After surviving countless wars and elephant charges, he was ultimately assassinated by household maintenance. Death by gravity and granny. Iconic, yet pathetic. Sigurd the Mighty, a fearsome Viking earl, strapped his defeated enemy's head to his saddle as a trophy. On the ride home, the dead guy's tooth scratched his leg. It got infected, and Sigurd died. He literally got murdered by posthumous dental hygiene. Floss might have saved him. A creative disaster featured in MasterChef was a deconstructed shepherd's pie that was literally just mashed potatoes on one plate and raw lamb tartare on another. One judge called it Michelin-starred pet food. It was avant-garde in the same way that sticking a fork in a toaster is experimental electrical engineering. Greta Thunberg sparked a global climate strike by skipping school. One girl with a sign turned into millions protesting worldwide. She didn't yell, didn't punch anyone, just looked adults in the eye and asked, "Why aren't you panicking?" Somehow that was more terrifying than any hurricane warning. Wangari Maathai started the Greenbelt movement by planting trees, over 50 million of them. She literally fought deforestation with a shovel and a mission. Kenya tried to shut her down, and she just kept digging. Who knew world saving could start with, "Let's put a seed here and ruin a dictator's day"? Satya Nadella started at Microsoft in 1992 as just another tech employee fiddling with servers. Fast forward a couple of decades, and boom, he's the CEO. He didn't found the company, but now he runs it like he programmed it in his sleep. Basically, from coffee fetcher to company overlord. Lithops, also called living stones, pretend to be rocks so no one eats them. That's it. Their whole survival plan is cosplay. They blend into gravel like introverts at a party, soaking in sunlight through tiny see-through windows while avoiding attention like it's tax season. Venus flytraps adapted to poor soil by turning into drama queens that eat bugs. No nutrients? No problem. Just snatch insects mid-air like plant ninjas with abandonment issues. They evolved a hunger for meat because Mother Nature gave them dirt that's more useless than a screen door on a submarine. Cold showers make your nervous system scream before it chills out. Drenching yourself in Arctic regret somehow convinces your brain you're not dying, just rebooting. It's the masochist's version of mindfulness where freezing water replaces therapy. Bonus, you scream internally while looking extremely refreshed. Articles a, an, and the exist just to mess with non-native speakers. Why a unicorn but an hour? They follow rules until they don't, like moody grammar gremlins. They serve no purpose except to make sentences sound less naked and confuse literally everyone trying to learn English without crying. Conjunctions are glue with attitude. They link ideas but throw fits if used incorrectly. But and however act like dramatic plot twists. Yet sounds like it's holding in a secret. And because it starts every toddler's argument. They don't make sense, they just stir drama between words like language's reality show hosts. The Banach-Tarski paradox claims you can take a ball, cut it into 5 pieces, and reassemble them into 2 balls of the same size. No stretching, just slicing and mathematical sorcery. It only works in theoretical math, not real life. Otherwise, pizza theft would be an art form. The Pauli exclusion principle says no 2 electrons can occupy the same quantum state, which basically means electrons are the universe's pickiest roommates. Even if there's plenty of space, one electron will scream, "That's my vibe," and force the other to find its own quantum couch. There are cacao plantations where witch doctors are hired to bless the yield, but also to curse workers who try to leave. So while Nestlé runs ads about pure joy, somewhere there's a guy being told he'll be haunted by cocoa spirits if he dares ask for a weekend off. In medieval China, murder wasn't just illegal. It was ranked in a complex hierarchy of horror. Killing your parents? That earned the charming punishment of slow slicing. Yes, death by 1,000 cuts. Casual murder might earn decapitation, but disrespectful murder? That's artistry in torture form. Leptospirosis, usually contracted by rat pee, can give you a fever, rash, and, just for fun, bright red eyes that look like you've cried blood or binged horror movies for 12 hours. It also sometimes causes meningitis, which is your brain's way of throwing a tantrum over bacterial betrayal. Mega mansions with 15 bathrooms sound luxurious until you realize most celebs use 3 rooms and spend the rest of their lives paying maintenance crews to keep the marble floor shiny. It's less home sweet home and more, I haven't seen my guest wing since 2021. In The Osbournes, the whole show was Ozzy mumbling at dogs, Sharon yelling about something on fire, and Jack trying not to get electrocuted. It was like a haunted house where everyone's high and only the walls are sober. You needed subtitles just to follow breakfast. Cows sometimes eat metal, nails, or random trash because their tongues are basically Hoover vacuums with zero filter. Farmers even invented a magnetic device called a cow magnet to trap this junk in their stomachs so they don't shred themselves from the inside like an unlucky vending machine. Annabelle, the famously demonic Raggedy Ann doll, was supposedly so evil that it needed to be locked in a special case by demonologists Ed and Lorraine Warren. It's blamed for causing car crashes, deaths, and spontaneous pants wetting. Imagine something stitched for toddlers being the reason grown men cry in daylight. A 2001 experiment gave men and women crying baby dolls to see who calms them better. Women rocked and soothed the doll. Men poked it, panicked, and Googled how to return a baby. The researchers discovered men can be emotionally available if the baby comes with a mute button and a user manual. Treadmill bike is a treadmill on wheels. Yes, that's real. You walk on it to power it forward, instead of just walking. It combines the convenience of walking with the inconvenience of explaining your life choices to strangers on the street. Zero practicality, infinite energy. In Japan, you can rent a stranger to do absolutely nothing. Literally, people pay someone to sit in silence, eat with them, or exist nearby like a paid ghost. It's therapy, but introverted. Imagine dropping $80 just to cry into your ramen while a stranger nods silently across the table. In Germany, you can rent cows, not to milk or pet, just to say you own one. Farmers put your name on a cow's ear tag and you get cheese from your cow. It's like a long-distance relationship, but with more lactose and less emotional baggage. In South Korea, people rent fake family members. Weddings, funerals, job interviews. Just call a service and rent a mom, cousin, or adoring spouse. Nothing screams stable adult like hiring a fake grandma to tell your boss you're emotionally grounded and totally not living in chaos. The Interview, aired in 2014, was a comedy about 2 idiots trying to assassinate North Korea's Kim Jong-un. Harmless roast? Nope. It triggered an international meltdown, a cyber attack on Sony, and threats so intense that the film was pulled from theaters. Turns out dictators aren't fans of poop jokes about their regime. Taylor Swift once got a note from a fan who sent her a turtle shell covered in glitter and a message saying, "Use this in battle." No context, just magical reptile armor. Either a confused warrior or a Dungeons & Dragons enthusiast with access to a craft store. In 2022, a giant rogue wave off the coast of British Columbia was so freakishly perfect, it was called a once-in-a-millennium event. It reached nearly 60 feet, then politely didn't smash anything. It's the ocean's version of a jump scare. Loud, unnecessary, and ultimately just rude sea gymnastics. In 2017, a soliton wave formed in the South China Sea, a single wall of water that marched along like it had somewhere to be. Scientists were amazed. Boats barely rocked. It's the wave equivalent of a dramatic entrance that ends in a soft handshake instead of a slap. Spain and the UK still bicker over Gibraltar, a 2.6 square mile rock. The locals literally voted to stay British twice, but Spain won't let it go. It's basically a custody battle over a rebellious teenager who just wants to play football and ignore both parents. In 2007, hikers in Garo Hills, India, said they saw a yeti bathing in a stream because nothing screams mythical snow beast like a relaxing spa day. They described it as tall, hairy, and surprisingly calm. Basically Bigfoot on vacation. Zoologists weren't impressed, but shampoo companies probably were. In Russia's Kemerovo region, officials launched an actual expedition in 2011 after supposed Yeti sightings. They found bent tree branches and weird footprints. So naturally, they declared 95% proof. Not 100%, just 95%. Apparently, the Yeti was shy that day and didn't want to commit to full existence. Rat bite fever sounds fake, like a villain origin story, but it's real. Get bitten or even scratched by a rat, and you might develop fever, rashes, and joint pain. Apparently, the rat's parting gift is arthritis and chaos, because biting you wasn't personal enough without adding disease as a sequel. Chagas disease is spread by the kissing bug, a pest that literally poops on your face after biting you. Then you accidentally rub the poop in your eye. Congratulations, you now have a heart parasite from something called a kissing bug. Romance is dead, and so are your ventricles. Leishmaniasis is transmitted by sandflies, tiny, invisible jerks who give you skin ulcers that look like you fought a cactus and lost. It's mostly found in tropical areas where everything wants to bite you, sting you, or turn your skin into a battlefield. Thanks. Nature's microscopic drama queens. Albert Einstein developed the theory of relativity, but couldn't remember basic dates, his own address, or how to dress like a functioning adult. He could explain time dilation, but tying his shoelaces? Optional. He once said he wore the same outfit daily to avoid wasting brainpower. Respect, but socks, man. Charles Darwin explained evolution and natural selection, but nearly caused his own extinction by licking every weird animal he found. Instead of taking notes, he tasted them. The guy who revolutionized biology was out there chewing beetles like snacks. Science owes its existence to an adventurous stomach. Pythagoras invented a theorem that still torments students, but also believed beans had souls. Not metaphorically, literally. He banned his followers from eating them. He'd die for triangles, but a humble kidney bean? Unholy demon spawn. Imagine being a math genius and losing sleep over legumes. The useless web is a portal that teleports you to completely pointless websites. One click might take you to a potato spinning in space. Another might lead to a blob that screams when you poke it. It's like Russian roulette for your remaining brain cells. Taco Bell's seasoned beef was once only 88% actual beef. The rest? A mysterious mix of oats, cocoa powder, and anti-caking agents. Apparently, Taco Bell took the term Mexican seasoning and translated it as add chocolate and science. It's like feeding your stomach a chemistry set in a tortilla. In Japan, eating KFC on Christmas is such a huge tradition that you have to pre-order your bucket weeks in advance. Otherwise, you risk standing in hours-long lines on Christmas Eve. The campaign started in the 1970s with Kurisumasu ni wa Kentucky, Kentucky for Christmas, and has since become a national holiday ritual. If your gravy tastes like deep-fried flashbacks, congratulations. You've just sipped KFC nostalgia with extra crunch. Hit like, subscribe, and let's dig deeper into food secrets that should probably come with a therapy session. Beluga lentils sound fancy because they're named after caviar, but they grow like total drama queens. They demand rich, loamy soil, perfect drainage, and exactly the right cool climate. Basically, they want spa treatment just to sprout. It's a lentil with diva energy and the farming needs of a celebrity on tour. Puy lentils only grow in one tiny region of France with volcanic soil. Anywhere else, and they just sulk and underperform. They even have an AOC certification, like wine. Imagine a lentil with an ego so inflated, it demands a passport and pedigree to grow properly. French and full of feelings. Leftover rice turns into fried rice, aka the ultimate fridge resurrection spell. Just toss it in a pan with soy sauce, an egg, and whatever sad veggies are about to die in the drawer. Bam! Dinner. It's culinary necromancy, and your rice went from forgotten side dish to main character energy. Shake weight is a dumbbell that jiggles aggressively when you hold it. It claims to tone arms, but mostly makes you look like you're trying to start a fire with invisible sticks. It's less fitness, more awkward public embarrassment. Bonus, it doubles as the weirdest icebreaker at parties. In India's Yamuna River, pollution has made the water foam like Satan's bubble bath. It's so frothy that people celebrate festivals in toxic suds, basically praying knee-deep in chemical cappuccino. It's holy water meets chemical warfare. Blessed be thy foam and pass the hazmat suit. Air pollution in some areas has caused flowers to lose their scent. Bees show up like, where's the vibe? And leave confused, flowerless, and unemployed. It's like Mother Nature got muted. Thanks to smog, even pollination is now a blind date with no chemistry. In 2008, Iceland's entire banking system collapsed because its banks went global shopping spree on credit, ballooning debts way beyond the country's GDP. When the financial crisis hit, the bubble burst, and Iceland basically declared, we're a financial powerhouse, right before face-planting into economic disaster. There's a glorious myth that happiness is a permanent state if you just try hard enough. According to that logic, you can smile your way out of trauma and turn depression into glitter. Spoiler, emotions aren't a mood subscription box. You can't unsubscribe from sadness with positive vibes in a smoothie. In 1971, Pakistan and India reached a unanimous ceasefire after the Indo-Pak War, mostly because both sides were exhausted and diplomatically hungry. After losing soldiers, tanks, and everyone's patience, they finally agreed to stop blowing each other up, proving nothing brings nations together like mutually assured we're too broke for this. Playtime boosts a child's executive function, which is fancy neuroscience for not launching themselves off furniture. Weirdly unstructured play wires their brain to plan, focus, and resist the urge to eat glue. Basically, tag turns them into tiny CEOs with better reflexes and way more dinosaur sound effects. Rough and tumble play like wrestling or chase activates brain areas linked to social calibration, meaning kids who tackle each other for fun are also secretly learning empathy. Yes, your child's pile driving their sibling onto a pillow is actually building moral awareness. The brain is weird like that. Violence, but wholesome. One weird fallacy is that expressing sadness makes you weak. Apparently, shedding a tear means your bones dissolve and you're banned from adulthood. Because why show emotions when you can bottle them up like emotional soda cans and explode during a minor inconvenience at a printer? Ted Bundy looked like a clean-cut law student with a charming smile and a firm handshake. Basically, the poster boy for trustworthy guy next door. Behind that innocent face, a serial killer who escaped custody twice and murdered over 30 women. He was America's horrifying reminder that evil can wear a sweater vest. People pleasers' brains often overproduce cortisol, turning every "are you mad at me?" into a full-blown internal crisis. One mildly stern text, and suddenly your brain's doing cardio without moving. It's like living in a constant state of emotional dodgeball with your self-worth tied to emoji tone. Crocodiles and birds team up like an accidental buddy cop duo. Birds like the Egyptian plover pick food scraps and parasites straight from crocs' mouths, without becoming dinner. It's either mutual trust or the crocodile forgot how biting works. Either way, it's dentistry with zero hygiene and high odds of sudden death. Coyotes and badgers hunt together like a chaotic predator tag team. The coyote chases prey in open fields while the badger digs them out of burrows. They don't share the meal, they just vibe. It's like watching two introverts form an efficient, silent murder alliance and then walk off separately. The legendary phrase "Elvis has left the building" wasn't coined by Elvis himself, but it was popularized by his longtime announcer, Al Dvorin. Dvorin repeatedly used it after Presley's performances to calm overeager fans, solidifying the phrase as part of rock and roll folklore. Some military jet engines can cook chickens mid-air, literally. The air they exhaust can hit over 1,000 degrees Celsius, hot enough to flash roast any unfortunate bird that flies too close. It's accidental KFC, only with feathers and aerodynamic regret. If you smell barbecue at 30,000 feet, don't ask questions. France gave us the Millau Viaduct, a bridge taller than the Eiffel Tower. It hovers above the clouds like a concrete runway for sky gods. Built to ease traffic through a boring valley, it somehow became the runway for every drone pilot's wet dream. Leave it to France to make a bridge sexy. Dubai said screw nature and built the Palm Jumeirah, a literal man-made island shaped like a palm tree. Because when you have too much oil money, sand isn't just for beaches, it's for engineering art projects you can see from space. It's beautiful, over the top, and sinking slightly. Just like the real estate market. A computer once forced a stalemate by having only a king left and somehow dodging defeat for 50 moves. It was less chess engine and more digital cockroach refusing to die. The human opponent rage quit, proving even machines can deliver emotional trauma with a well-timed draw. In 2016, a Michelin-starred chef in Chicago created a hot Cheetos-covered sushi roll as a playful mashup. Bright orange, spicy, and crunchy, it looked like a prank, but became a social media sensation. Proof that fine dining sometimes raids the gas station snack aisle. Thanks for watching the only channel where animals collab, fans send glittered battle gear, and chefs invent edible crimes. Subscribe before we get sued by a crocodile dentist or a bubblegum sommelier. Hit that bell because reality's broken, and we're here to narrate it with jazz hands and absolutely no chill.